So, you found yourself in a relationship, and you don't feel like you're getting the attention that you deserve. What do you do about it? Do you communicate? Sign up to counselling? Do you call it a night and split up? Whatever the answer is, I'd hope it wouldn't be murder. My name is Adrian, and welcome back to another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. Our case today looks at the self-absorbed life of Samantha Wohlford, and how her thoughtless tendencies resulted in the death of her own husband. If you're new to the channel, I post both solved and unsolved cases here on a weekly basis, so if true crime is your kind of thing, then please consider subscribing to Coffeehouse Crime. Samantha Wohlford is Samantha Wohlford. She's an interesting case, alright? But what made her the way that she is? Was her crime a product of selfish intent? And did you know that she has a Jailbabes account? Let's take a look. Pull up a seat, grab a coffee and sit back. This is the case of Samantha Wohlford. Before jumping into today's case, I wanted to shout out to this video's sponsor, Noom. Not even 10 months ago, Coffeehouse Crime didn't exist. And while I am more than grateful that you folks appreciate my content, it's meant that I found less and less time to focus on myself, and just as importantly, my health. I've been trying out a health program called Noom for just over a month now, and, being honest, at first I was skeptical. But just 4 weeks later, and my perspective has completely changed. Not only to Noom, but also to my health and the way that I eat. Straight away I was learning new things, such as the importance of calorie density versus weight. For example, did you know that a quarter pound of grapes is 14 times less dense than a quarter pounder? Yet both of these things will fill you up all the same. Noom is very much like my own personal health assistant. It uses cognitive behavioural therapy methodology to encourage users to adapt healthy habits while building sustainable knowledge and behaviours. Noom teaches you in a very rewarding and tenacious way. And this isn't just about dieting, it's about water intake, exercise, behaviour and stress management, and so much more. Daily water intake and calorie trackers keep you on track, and you even get a coach and a personalised group chat to keep you motivated throughout your journey. If you are interested in developing healthier habits, then visit noom.com/coffeehousecrime to receive a free 30-second quiz, which will help you build your personalised Noom plan and help you begin your journey. That's noom.com/coffeehousecrime. And thank you Noom for supporting us content creators. Much like last week's case, this one has a Samantha and also a Mount Pleasant. But don't be fooled. Both of those things couldn't be any more different to one another. Today we're taking a trip to Mount Pleasant, the largest city in Titus County, Texas. Considering itself to be the gem of northeastern Texas, the city is famous for, well, actually it's not famous for anything. And with a population of around 16,000 residents, the city wouldn't even fill a fifth of Wembley Stadium. But maybe size does not necessarily matter. The city may be small, but it makes up for it in outdoor activity and diverse culture. And here we also find the home of Samantha and Ernie. Samantha Wohlford was born on the 28th of August 1989. She was the oldest of 3 children. And throughout the 90s and into the new millennia, she had a relatively pleasant upbringing in her loving family of 5. Moving into her teens, she was an alternative-styled young woman, and as she grew up, she was heavily involved in the internet age, frequenting social media throughout her life and rarely seen without an internet connection. At the age of 19, Samantha, who was still in high school, met her first boyfriend, a boyfriend who, in that very same year, would become the father to her first 2 children, a set of twins. The twins were an accident. There's nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately the relationship would not last long either. The 2 split up very shortly after Samantha gave birth, leaving her to be a single mother all on her own. With that said, she found herself in a very difficult situation. She had 2 mouths to feed, yet she had barely any money, no skill, no profession, and no real plan. It seemed as if, in this stage of her life, Samantha was at the very beginning of a long, skint road. And that would be the case, until she found herself walking into a tattoo shop a few months later in the year 2008. Although the money was tight, Samantha felt that she deserved to treat herself every now and then, and so under that philosophy, she made her way down to the local tattoo shop. She had plenty of them already, and one more wouldn't hurt. But while there, she bumped into another customer. Someone who she had never met before. His name was Ernie, and following the abrupt encounter, the two would carry on talking before eventually hitting it off. Not long after that, they found themselves in a relationship, the true beginning to our story today. Ernie, whose full name is Erie Ibarra, was born on Christmas Day of 1985. He too grew up with a loving family, and although his parents had split up, he maintained regular contact with them both. Ernie was described by his family as a well-natured and caring young man, who was willing to give the shirt off his back to help anyone in their time of need. He was a bookworm in his younger years, though as he aged, he found his true calling in gaming, avidly spending many hours on Halo, Call of Duty, and World of Warcraft. After high school, he enrolled into computer classes and took on work as a woodworker at Talco Wood Crafters, until eventually and finally, Samantha would walk into his life. In the very beginning, things were going good for the two. Although Samantha didn't work, Ernie brought in enough money to keep the four of them financially afloat. However, just 3 years later, in the year 2011, Samantha would fall pregnant again. This time Ernie was the father, and between the two of them, they would bring in another set of twins to the world. There were 2 additional mouths to feed, but Ernie would offset those finances by taking another job at Little Caesars, a pizza shop down in Mount Pleasant. But in the year 2013, the couple would quite literally do it again, and at the age of 24, Samantha would give birth to her 5th and final child, a boy. It was at this point in their relationship that things started to become more turbulent. Sure, the two lovebirds did have their small arguments at the beginning of their story, but things seemed to worsen as the relationship progressed. And some of these arguments seemed rather abstract. Ernie, being an avid gamer, played many role-playing games online, meaning that he would roleplay as a character in a virtual world with other gamers who were doing the same thing. And in one of these games that he frequented, his online character would marry another player. The virtual marriage made Samantha extremely jealous. The two ended up at it again in a giant fight. And so, to quell the argument, Ernie proposed to Samantha. How romantic? Ernie's gaming habits would often cause rifts between the two. Samantha claimed that he was vacant and never spent time with her or the children. But Ernie enjoyed gaming. It was how he relaxed, especially after working 2 jobs to keep the family afloat. But due to Ernie's absence and Samantha's desire for attention, she turned to YouTube to satiate her appetite, creating the username of simplymanic6075. She would initially post commentary-like content on daytime TV shows, but as time progressed, they became more self-focused.
Hey guys, I was asked to do a video 15 weird things about me. So, number 1, I have twins. Every time I get pregnant, I have 2 sets of twins. Number 4, I am completely obsessed with vampires. I think they're amazing and beautiful and awesome, and I love vampire movies. Of course, I'm not a big Twilight fan. I don't like Twilight. Number 5, I am a complete makeup addict. I probably have $3,000–$4,000 invested in makeup. I am obsessed. Number 6, body modifications. I think are amazing. I'll sit and watch YouTube videos of people getting their tongue split. Number 8, I'm one of the most opinionated people you will ever meet, and I freaking hate it when people sit there and if I have an opinion on something and they want to argue my opinion, it pisses me off really bad. Number 12, I'm a complete dreamer. I think that anything can be possible. Number 14, I've always wanted to be an actress. Okay, well, alright, I love you guys. Bye.
Samantha started creating short vlogs about her life. And in these vlogs, she would express that she was finding life hard, complaining about her relationship and her children. However, she would admit that she did nothing all day, apart from watch Netflix and play video games. And all the while, her children could be heard running around and screaming in the background.
I don't understand. I mean, stupidity just pisses me off. Yes, I know, stupider is not a word. I understand that, and it makes me sound like a ding-dong, but hey, it's cool. I am who I am. But stupidity really pisses me off. There should be a vaccine made or a colony where everybody that is stupid goes and is stuck in this little place by themselves, or it should be mandatory vaccinated that you have to get a shot to cure stupidity, because the world really needs to be rid of stupidity. That is something that pisses me off way quicker than anything else.
Much like many of us who hope to make it big here on the platform, Samantha had a genuine belief that her YouTube career was going somewhere, and that people liked her content. Which is fair enough, but normally this kind of thing takes a lot of time and dedication. And to Samantha, she was already a mother to 5 children. So, when Samantha made that decision to dedicate all of her time to YouTube, it came at the cost of her children's care and her husband's time. Having always wanted to be an actress, Samantha leaned into the idea. And all in the meanwhile, she was becoming more and more obsessed with her online presence. She thought that if she kept at it, YouTube would be her big break. But sadly, there was a stark contrast between her self-perception and reality. Samantha believed that she was big. Fame is relative, but her videos were rarely hitting over 100 views at the time. Moving forward, Ernie's and Samantha's relationship would continue to fall into despair. Putting it bluntly, they were desperately unhappy. The partnership had matured to the two both feeling neglected by one another, and although they were attempting to keep the large family together, things were tough. Samantha would waste no time in letting everyone know how unhappy she was. She would often broadcast her problems to friends, and, even worse, more publicly to the internet. She described how awful Ernie was as a father, and told people that he was abusive to her and the children, even reporting this to police on more than one occasion. But despite the accusations, there never was any evidence to back this up, and Ernie's family insisted that Samantha was making it up for attention. Nevertheless, in this particular case, it can't be confirmed or denied. As time went on, Samantha's toxic behaviour escalated, and by the end of 2014, her complaining had well and truly built an artificial wall between her and Ernie, and with that division brought more arguments. Arguments that would further drive the two apart, causing further stress, more negativity, and more complaining. And eventually, this vicious cycle would be the catalyst to a tragic end. In the early hours of the 20th of February 2015, Titus County Police received a call from Samantha's aunt.
Titus County 911, what's your emergency? I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. She's tied up? She is tied up and gagged. I am untying her. What is the victim's name? Samantha Wohlford. She's saying that they hit her husband in the face about 5 times, drug him out.
It seemed that something terrible had happened to the young family. At 2:19 AM, when police arrived on site, there they found Samantha distraught and in panic. It seemed like in the dead of night, 3 men who were all dressed in black broke into Ernie's and Samantha's home with a mission to abduct Ernie. Samantha was removed from the bed and pinned to the ground, while Ernie was dragged downstairs and beaten with a pistol. And upon being dragged downstairs with him, the masked intruders made sure that Ernie was looking at Samantha while he was being hit. Samantha was then taken upstairs, bound and gagged, and after a short period of silence, she managed to make her way to the phone and call for help. And while she was okay, Ernie was nowhere to be found. Samantha's aunt, who was called by Samantha, would arrive to find the front door in pieces, and would find Samantha partially tied up and gagged. Samantha would claim that she had no idea who the masked men were, primarily because the men were dressed from head to toe in black, but she did have a theory as to why Ernie could have potentially been targeted. The house was thoroughly inspected by police, and yet, Samantha's story just didn't seem to add up. For example, how did Samantha untie herself? And why did she call her aunt instead of police? The crime scene itself seemed to be rife with inconsistencies to Samantha's actual story. For example, there was a general lack of blood at the crime scene, and no one heard the aggressive entry, and how did the assailants know which room to target in the first place? Not to mention that at the time, all 5 children were sleeping in the same room, which seemed convenient because normally they would sleep scattered around the house. It wouldn't take police long to start doubting Samantha's story. In fact, they would take her down to the local police station pretty much straight away to begin questioning. And as they dug deeper and deeper into the mindset of Samantha Wohlford, her story would change by the minute.
Okay, see, I knew. You know, Sam, you know I'm not here lying to you. You know I know.
The only other thing I know, and I don't even know if I know,
Okay.
but it's a suspicion.
Okay,
I've been up at the hospital with my friend Charlotte,
okay,
and she's got a guy there, and I swear to God I cannot go up there that I said any of this.
okay.
Because they have a lot of friends around here, and my life will be in a lot of danger.
Okay.
I have a problem with talking to my friends about our problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to talking about how a man shouldn't treat a woman that way and how you don't do those things to a person.
Okay.
And he's going to deal with the situation. I
Okay.
didn't take him seriously.
Okay, you see, Sam, you know who did this. Okay, who is this guy?
His name's John.
John who?
His Facebook is Rebel, John Rebel.
When a story changes within a case, much like this one, it's usually because the storyteller has something to hide. I'm not talking about myself here, I'm talking about Samantha, and what she was trying to do was to preserve her innocence to police. Police knew that, but Samantha, she was playing a game. And so police, they had to play. The next step was to understand Jonathan's involvement in Ernie's disappearance. Even from a very young age, Jonathan Sanford grew up being a bully and would often get in trouble. In fact, ironically, he was fresh out of prison for assaulting his cousin just prior to Ernie's disappearance. Being described as an unapologetic man who didn't care if his actions were illegal or immoral, police were expecting a real interesting conversation with this man. Following Samantha's revelation, both Jonathan Sanford and his brother-in-law, Jose Antonio Ponce, were arrested and brought in for questioning, along with one further suspect, Octavius Rhymes. Sounds like a real supervillain. And despite dropping their names in hot coffee, Samantha was still insistent that she had nothing to do with the incident. It wasn't until they seized Samantha and her fellow detainees' phones that this case was blown wide open, and the true nature of Samantha's involvement to her husband's murder came to light. It turns out that during the initial search of the house, Samantha asked police if she could go call her mum. The officer complied, and it was at this time at 2:30 in the morning that she also sent Octavius a message saying, "Kill phone, shut that shit down." And shortly after, upon hearing chatter over police radio, she sent another text message saying, "Ditch phone, move." By keeping her enemies close, and by that I mean police, Samantha was attempting to help her hit squad avoid the law. But despite these brave attempts, she failed to ever think about digital forensics, should they ever get a hold of any of their phones. Unsurprisingly, when confronted about the evidence, Samantha tried her best to make an excuse. According to her, she had taken Ambien that night, a drug prescribed to help her sleep, which can have many side effects that include memory loss, confusion, and hallucinations. She therefore claimed that she didn't remember sending any of those texts. This wouldn't aid her case, however, as once apprehended, it wouldn't take long at all for the truth to come spilling out. Jonathan decided to come clean to police, giving them the reasoning and the location of Ernie's body. Jonathan, along with Jose and Octavius, agreed in helping Samantha get rid of Ernie, after she had told Jonathan and his girlfriend that he abused both her and the children, to which Jonathan offered to, quote, "take Ernie out of the picture." The initial plan was to plant methamphetamine on Ernie and then get him arrested. But after securing the drugs and then re-evaluating their plan, it was agreed between the four that it would be easier to just kill Ernie instead. In preparation, Samantha gave all 5 kids a high dose of Ambien to help keep them asleep. She tucked them away in a far-off room and left the door unlocked for Ernie's assailants. They would then stage a break, making it look like forced entry, and abduct Ernie before hijacking Samantha's car. Ernie had no idea who these men were. where they were taking him, or what they were going to do with him. He was reportedly begging his assailants not to kill him or his wife throughout the entire journey. Jonathan then led Ernie and the other hitmen to a remote forest in Sandcrossing, Camp County. And when deep enough in the woods, Jose shot Ernie before the group left the body.
Definitely did. Okay, what we need to do now? Oh yeah, he's dead. He's not gonna be alive.
Following the discovery of Ernie's body, both Jonathan Sanford and Jose Ponce pleaded guilty to aggravated kidnapping and first-degree murder, both of them receiving a sentence of 50 years apiece during their trials in April 2016. And in December of that same year, Octavius Rhymes went to trial. Although he did not plead guilty, he was eventually found guilty of the same crime, receiving a combined sentence of 98 years. And finally, in September 2017, Samantha Wohlford's trial for the kidnapping and murder of her husband would begin. Samantha's claims that her medication altered her state was not believed by the jury, and following a relatively short deliberation, she too was sentenced to 50 years for her involvement in kidnapping alone. And after a second trial for the murder of her husband, Samantha was sentenced to 99 years, to be served consecutively after 50 years for kidnapping. She is now serving her sentence at the Carroll Young Complex in Dickinson, Texas. This may be an obvious statement to make this late in the video, but turns out after all that Samantha had everything to do with her own husband's disappearance and murder. From initiation to discussion, to action, to execution, she was the mastermind behind this entire process. Not that you can really call Samantha a mastermind, as she clearly didn't do a good enough job of it. Samantha had a very abstract view when it came to the real world, but even in her deluded mindset, she was very conscious of what she was doing. She wanted to be out of a relationship to pursue her YouTube career, and the loss of her husband would give her a lot of attention and a lot of sympathy. Apparently, those two things were more important to her than the life of a hard-working father who took on 2 jobs to keep his wife and his kids afloat. She wanted to become the poor single mother that everyone would feel sorry for. Instead, she became the monster that no one loves and no one appreciates. But hey, bringing the mood up just a little bit, did you know that Samantha is now available to chat via Jailbabes? You now have the opportunity to speak to the one and only Simply Manic 6075, if that's your sort of thing. Following her loneliness in prison, Samantha turned to the website of Jailbabes to offer her pen pal services, and she works hard so she can play harder. She is caffeine addicted, so maybe she'll be interested in Coffeehouse crime when she eventually gets out. But something tells me that she'll be waiting for quite some time. And despite all odds, she finally made it big on YouTube. See guys, dreams do come true. Hi there, and thank you so much for watching another video today by Coffeehouse Crime. If you found this video interesting, then please remember to like the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then please consider doing so too. I'm off to look at Jailbabes, but after that I'll be right back. And when I am, I'll be right here behind this camera, waiting for you in the next one. Until that moment arrives though, look after each other. Goodbye.